Are you looking for joy, peace, and a life filled with fulfillment and purpose? Are you wanting to stay aligned in your vortex no matter what's going on around you? Are you ready to live the life that you were meant to live? An extraordinary life?
Welcome to Journey into the Vortex, where metaphysics meets real life. I am Mary Roseman, joined by my co-hosts Marcella Nitschke and Heather Wells. We are three ordinary women living extraordinary lives. Through our personal quests and years of deep exploration into the realms of metaphysics, we have seen our lives transformed and turned to extraordinary experiences. And we have joyfully embraced the calling to share all these amazing teachings and tools with you, that you may also experience the magic and wonder of a completely different way of being in the world.
Our purpose is to present to you the different paths we have explored throughout all of these years. We will have discussions on the different modalities, the different practices, the different teachers, and we will also share how we have applied these specific principles and tools in our lives, as well as our personal stories of how we have seen our lives transformed in really amazing ways.
Woman, you are on. Tell us about your experience with the death.
Okay, so today I want to delve a little deeper in a hard topic of death and dying. So personally, my family just went through a loss of a loved one, and it was my mother-in-law. And I know, Marcella, we've all had loss. You've had somebody close to you pass away, but what I really want to talk to you is about the several weeks leading up to her passing, and what we think about dying, what we think about the afterlife, what we think about the supernatural and the metaphysical part of dying. But my mind is just blown even when I get it. But what happened leading up to her passing was amazing. So started off a few days before she passed away. And let me start by example. This was my mother-in-law. She was in assisted living. She was not really having her quality of life. She was in hospice, but it was kind of, it could have been 6 months. It could have been, she wasn't, I had just gone to see her that week. And so I then left out of town to go visit my sister-in-law, and my daughter and I, through my sister-in-law's suggestion, we went to a death doula. So my sister-in-law had met this woman, and I'm telling you, she could be on this podcast. We may have her. She is an ordinary woman living an extraordinary life, and she has the gift of mediumship. I would say her death dualism, that she can actually connect to people that are in the dying process. And also she's just an enlightened being and psychic, and so she starts talking about the mom that is passing, and says that she's doing her life review now, and she really kind of regrets and has learned a lot, and that's why she's been in this nursing home for so long, is she's not going to pass until she realizes and learns her lessons. And she had told my daughter, you are nothing like me. And she told my sister-in-law that she does realize she had some personality disorders, which we would probably say the narcissism. And she was in a depression most of her life. And she never got over that. She never got over the divorce. Never. Angry. Never got over it. And her husband, my father-in-law, had passed several years ago as well. Well, the one story I'll tell you, when we were in the nursing home, one of her main caregivers came up to me one day and said, this was 2 months ago, and said, can you tell me about her husband? And I said something. She's like, I knew him 20 years ago. He actually had done something for her that made a whole difference in her life. And we determined at that time that, she goes, he changed my life, is basically what she said. And I said, oh my gosh, he put you here to take care of her, because even though they were divorced, He always cared about her, and he would do that. He would make sure she was taken care of. So we're crying, I just, again, no synchronicities, no accidents. And she felt like that was her contribution to what he had done for her in her life. So full circle back to the death doula. So she also says, as she's reading my mother-in-law, who has not passed, and talking of her struggles, but she's getting there at peace. She had told my sister-in-law one thing she wanted us to do is all write a letter to her and telling her like it was okay to go and that we've loved her and we've forgiven her, and the father's on the other side waiting.
Write a letter to who would write a letter?
We would personally write a letter,
but not give it to her.
Not give it to her because she's. But what we did that weekend was we all wrote a letter to her. We went to this river in nature and we each read our letter to her, and then we burned the letter. And again, at this time she wasn't actively dying, but we were just knowing like, why are you living this life? You have no quality of life. You love somebody enough. I mean, it's just depressing, that all these people are in the nursing home. And so we had done that weekend. So we met with the death doula. We did the letter release. She had also said to me, she said, when she was reading my daughter, she said, there's a male figure on the other side, and she describes him perfectly. Well, that was her husband. And she said, he is there on the other side, and he's going to help her pass. And he kind of jokingly said, she was kind of difficult in this life, but he still cares for her and loves her, and he's going to make sure. She had a lot of work to do on this life, a lot of lessons and a lot of work, but he was going to be there to help her pass. And then he in hindsight, she said, he was kind of the opposite. He's an older soul and didn't have as much work to do on this side. But oh God, she was just nailed everything. I mean, not only the mediumship and the death doula, and anyway, so we get back to Kansas. We get back home, and we were home a day, and the hospice calls my husband and says she's declining. Like, calls at 4 a.m, and really passed within 2 days after that. But I just find it ironic how we did the letter, the release of her soul and spirit, just things like in my letter, I just assured her like, I will take care of Betsy, and my sister-in-law, I just wanted that she can go. And she passed within 2 days. But even at the last moments of her life, I mean, the lamps flickering.
Really?
Oh, totally, the lamp was flickering. And
oh my God, where? At your house?
No, in the hospice, we're in the nursing home. And then this death doula, Amy is her name, and so she's even sending me messages directly, like as this is happening, and she's talking about the energies, and she's telling me things that his mom is saying, because I would say my husband was. You have the guilt of, I should have been there more, I should have visited her more, I should have. And she said, no. She goes, on the other side, that is such 3D energy. Once they pass, like, there is no guilt. She wanted him to, she's so proud that he was a great dad and that she wanted him to live his life and not, but there was all that release of, I don't know, it's just like, it's a weird situation when people are saying, we're so sorry, but you're like, oh, there's just such a release in death. Not in every situation. It's not a tragic situation, but I feel like her soul is at peace. And I don't think she's had peace for 30 years. I don't think she's had peace. And then the fact that her ex-husband, who she had so much grief with, I 100% know he was there. So I don't know. So what are we going to talk about death and dying? And I just don't feel like I have this sadness. It's a loss.
It's a waste of time.
But
waste of energy.
A waste of energy. Like,
it's
she's
very
free.
3D, very, and you're looking at the bigger picture.
And interesting on her, and we all have this, like we talk about soul agreements and what was her lesson here to learn.
Right.
And one of the things Amy, the death doula, was talking about was she said, you know, when you are born onto this earth and you have a soul lesson that you are going to learn, that you've agreed to come down to earth and learn. And she said, oftentimes, imagine your soul family and you have this lesson that is going to be tough. You're going to pick your best friend to do it, because they're the ones that are like, I can do this for you. Like, they have your highest interest. So sometimes that soul on this earth that you are butting heads with is actually your biggest soulmate on the other side that signed up for it with you to make sure. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does.
Yes. So some of your biggest relationships on this plane that rub you the hardest, or you learn your hardest lessons with, or somebody that they agreed to help you.
Right.
So
Sometimes I feel that way with Ian.
Yeah, exactly.
my
Like
son.
you have a soul agreement with him.
Oh, no question. No question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just been a fascinating couple of weeks. I mean, and she was also, I think I told you girls, but when she did the reading on me personally, so her other, you know, she first of all looks at me and she's like, you really haven't had anybody close to you die. And I was like, I haven't. I don't know.
And you've said that several times.
Yeah, and I think, but she said, oh, Heather, she's like, you have this super strong male energy around you, like super tall, big, wrapping. She goes, I think it's an archangel. And I said, yeah. And she said, do you resonate with an archangel? And I said, I do, with Archangel Michael. And we talk about the religious aspect, because I'm not Catholic. I'm not really a religious type of person, but I've always had this connection with Archangel Michael. And I said, yeah, that's him, in the description. And she says, I said, in fact, I'll tell you a story. I said several years ago, my son was going through some really teenage boy trying times for mom and dad, just pushing every limit, and got himself in some trouble. And at that time, I was really just praying to Archangel Michael, just really asking him to come in and protect him and watch over him and help him make right choices. And I had written out a prayer to him. It was just a constant. And at one point, my son, I can say this now, but he got arrested and was taken to jail. And I left him there for 3 days. I left him there. And at the time, I just thought he was in like the local little, just teaching him a lesson. But what they did was they sent him to like the county big boy jail. And he was 17 or 18. I mean, he was a child, really. And first thing she says 3 days, Heather, 3 days is transformation. In every religion, every Bible, Jesus, 3 days. She's like, so you did the right thing. So when I picked him up on that third day, and again, we hadn't talked, and he was scared to death. And he gets in the car, and he said, he starts telling me about his experience there, and he was terrified and so scared. But he said, Mom, he goes, there was this man there, and he was huge. And my son's not little. I mean, but he was like, he was this bigger than life man, and he just made me feel so safe. And he said he never slept, and I think they were in, I want to say like a bunk style area, like. And he said he would just stay up all night, and then he would sit with me, and he would talk to me, and he would say like, what are you doing with your life? Like, what is going on? And he's like, I am just making bad choices, and I don't know. And he's like, well, so he just counseled him but he said he felt so safe. But he just described him as this huge man with blonde hair. And I looked at him, and we were sitting in the car, literally in front of the jail, and I said, was his name Michael? And he goes, I think it was.
Oh my God.
I mean, so she said, he presented himself to you. He's presented himself. And she says, this is in my reading, she said, he wants you to know that he is so proud of him. And then she goes, no. He wants you to know that he's always been proud of him. He's just so proud of the path he's on now. I'm like, so you cry. But
makes me cry.
I know. So anyway, she said, I have Archangel Michael energy constantly around me. And she said, and at his feet, there's all these fairies. Because she's like, he's like all this really active energy. Because she said, are you active? Do you? And I said, yes, I'm. And then she also said, started getting probably into my career mode and said, you also have this very strong feminine energy, ancient feminine energy. And she said, do you go on walks? And I said, every day I walk in nature. And she goes, she knows that, and that's where she wants you to connect with her, and just talks about her strength and female energy. And
Guan Yin.
I think it was. I think that's who it was. And I know that. So anyway, so my reading with her was not so much in a mediumship role, I guess. But anyway, it just makes
so much confirmation.
Right? But I don't know, just the last several weeks have just been...
I wish I could see her. She's glowing. And her energy is...
And you know how it is. That's why we have this podcast, because you just want to share this, all this stuff. And not everybody understands death and dying. And then you have to do all the human stuff. And the, you know, like you have to go to the funeral home, and you have to, but I don't know. I think it just confirms the fact of why we are here, to do our soul lessons. Life is on here on this 3D earth is short.
I think that death experience is something that can be just so sacred. I mean, one day I would like to share my experience with my husband, my late husband, Greg. But it was, oh my gosh, to this day I remember every one of those moments so vividly. And I feel so much peace. It is really
it's like birth, but death, it's a different...
It's a transition. It's a passage to... it's just... it's very deep. So that's why I want to...
And it's very personal. Like, I mean, it wasn't... So for... You have that personal experience with your husband. Ed's sister made it in town that evening. And again, you never know if they're going to be here for 2 or 3 more days. But anyway, so we had left, and she decided she was going to spend the night at the nursing home. And her mom passed that night. So she got to...
And when she was there.
Yeah, and they had a lot of healing to do. Oh. They had a lot of healing to do. And one thing I would say my sister-in-law didn't get from her mom was what she needed was just that love, and she was able to give it to her mom, even though she didn't feel that she received it from her mom. Mm-hmm. She laid in bed with her and talked to her and cuddled with her, and and she said, I think my mom needed that. And I said, I think you needed that because you didn't get that. That's so. But it just felt like everybody got their healing, Yeah.
I was able to witness Greg's last moments, and it was like, and interestingly, I was the only one there, which on the one hand, being selfish, it was great, right? Because when he was in hospice, and when the nurse said, well, he's starting to breathe in this pattern, that's a sign that it may be coming, he may be leaving soon. So I called my stepson, I called Brian, and I said, hey, they told us this in case he wanted to come, but he has young kids, and his wife was gone. It was 7 a.m, but she was working early that morning, and he just couldn't. So I was the only one there. And that night, I had decided to bring our 2 dogs to the hospice and spend the night there. And it was Deacon and Ollie and me. And the dogs, I have pictures when the dogs had their heads, their their snouts on the bed. Snouts on the bed, and it's just amazing how that that was prior to his passing, and then I was there when he was breathing and when he stopped breathing. It was like I felt it's just so hard to describe. I cannot say how profound that experience can be. It's like I knew and I felt Greg just leaving that body and just being free and being. It was like all of a sudden he opened the door and I was opening it with him. It was awesome. It was just awesome. And then the body, I was worried, I said, well, now when they come and take the body, I thought it was going to be a hard thing. And I noticed that I was like, when Greg was on the bed and he wasn't conscious really, he had little moments, but I was like kissing him, smelling him. I just felt like I wanted to get as much as I could of those, the sensations of his body. But when he passed, after he left that body, I felt no desire, not even to hold. I held his hand just because I said a prayer in that moment, but and I was talking. I say a prayer, but it's actually like I was speaking, but I didn't feel like kissing him or like I had that. I probably gave him a kiss and everything, but it wasn't like that desire to smell him, to be with him. The dogs, the same thing. The dogs were all over, like I said, with their heads on his bed. If they could climb on the bed, I think Ollie tried once when he was there. The dogs wouldn't even get around the bed anymore. It's like they knew
he wasn't there.
They knew. Yeah, we all felt he's not here, and I started feeling him really close after that.
Right.
When they took the body, I looked at the body. It was amazing. I was surprised at my own reactions. There's his body. They're taking the body to be cremated. But Greg was not there. Greg was here. It was such a...
And that's what I find funny with our society. So, like that, they take their body, and so, several days later, we had to go to the funeral home. And I'm like, when did we start all this ritual of burying a body and visiting the cemetery? And, so when we were going there, her original plans were to be buried, and I kind of looked at it and I said, well, are you sure you don't want to cremate her? And, he hadn't really given it much thought, which we ultimately did cremate her. But it's like her body's not there. And
but I think the ritual has its purpose for certain people. It helps them process and get closer to that, I think.
But at this point, it's like she's not... I don't know, it's been a week, and it's just, like my parents, I've had this discussion because they bought plots, and, my dad wanted a view, and now the big joke is like, I hope your soul's not at the cemetery for infant, I hope you're not stuck in the cemetery forever, and, because like you said, I feel like you can tap in anytime and talk to your loved ones or soul.
Well, I kept Greg's ashes. I did not, we had several discussions about that. We had a party,
Yes, that was so nice.
I think Greg guided that whole thing because my idea was to have some sort of a service, but I think it was COVID. I don't know. COVID was kind of like, and so just the way things happened. And then Brian wanted someone, something for his friends and stuff. And that ended being the whole celebration of life. I was planning another celebration of life. I think it was at the club or something like that. But I think Greg guided that whole thing. Later on, I learned that marina, the pavilion where we had, was his special place where he used to hide to eat his Taco Bell from.
Oh, that's so funny.
And then Brian said, you know what? Dad used to park here all the time to eat, because he said the trash can is right there. I'm going to get rid of the evidence before I get back home. Marcella sees it in the trash. It's so funny. I think it was already when he was already sick. I don't know. But, he was able to drive and stuff. But it was the perfect place to have that.
Right.
And, it was awesome. And then from then on, everything is just like, I felt him so close, and even I know it's it's different when a human beloved passes away, and although I think my dogs are like my children, right? And Deacon had been like this amazing dog. Same thing happened with Deacon. Deacon was euthanized here in this very room, with everybody present, and when he left, I felt like Deacon had finally, I opened that same door with him, and I felt like, he's free now. He's not, it was such a sweet feeling. And I will say, grief never came. By the time, wait, you're going to start. It just didn't. I
agree.
have memories,
it's hard to grieve when you know.
Yes.
They're, like you said, they're free. They're
free. Yes. But I that's what I was wondering. Maybe some humans have not reflected on that and tried to really internalize that. Really know, or really that conviction of, I know you're not gone. I know you haven't disappeared. I know you are in a great place now, right? I know even the dog is in a great place. But when you really know it, there's no grief.
Right.
So,
and another thing, so obviously your husband and they had lived a great life. Too early for Greg, certainly, but it was a wonderful.
Everybody has
right, and you had the closure. So my daughter, the first person that came through with her, she said it was a friend of hers that passed away, kind of tragically young, and he came through immediately.
The one in the fire?
No, that was my cousin. That's a whole, yeah. No, so Amy, the medium, she says to my daughter, she's like, did you have a young male friend pass away? And so when he was in college, he did pass away from cancer. Mm-hmm. But I would say they were friends, but not best friends, but several things she said, like, you would ride in the front seat of the car with them, and and he was apologizing to her because he's like, I felt like I was a jerky guy, and I just wasn't mature enough to be the type of friend, you deserve. But me, from the outsider, his energy, he was so alive. If you know what I'm talking about, like the energy coming through from him, it was a youthful. And he was just talking through her and just talking. And then he would say, oh, gosh. And this is Amy talking. She said, I feel this is Hadley's time. Like, I feel like I'm taking up her time because he's just wanting to connect to somebody. And then the strange thing was, so he had died 3 or 4 years ago. And he was talking about all of their friends and things. And Hadley said, you're never going to believe this, but like a month ago in her bathroom, and he had passed from cancer, but how everybody had those rubber bracelets, and his said, live like Jake. And she said, I found it on my bathroom floor. And she said, I don't remember ever having one of those. And it was just randomly, and she's moved several times, and this bracelet was on her bathroom floor. Wow. And then he came through, and again, it wasn't like it wasn't like a best friend loss or anything. It was, for her age, they were friends.
But who of his circle of friends has the opportunity to be with the death doula? I can communicate.
That's what he's saying. He found this window, and he's like, and then afterwards I said, oh my gosh, Hadley, I felt like he would have had messages. No offense to Hadley, my daughter, but she wasn't his. He just wanted to talk to somebody on this side, and but I thought, we should have asked him. I'm sure he had messages to give, like, to his parents, and
she could ask
if they can. Yeah, if they can take it.
They can take it. I kind of know them, but I didn't really feel like it was my place. I mean, but it was, his energy was so young and happy and excited, and like, you could just see her shifting with different energy, with different Amy, the medium. But it was not sad. He wasn't sad on the other side. And she's kind of like, he's watching you all, it was a really, you could feel it. You could feel, it was a light energy.
Pretty cool stuff.
So anyway, death fascinates me.
Right.
Yeah, maybe we could just look at death in a different way, right?
Right.
But another topic that we can choose one of these days is like near-death experiences. There's a lot of stories and testimonies out there that people who have been, on the other side and been back. So
Absolutely.
So what do you think, Mary, about this whole conversation?
I think
You were very quiet.
that I yearn for that experience because I didn't have that, not with my father, my mom, my in-laws. I just didn't have that. It was just always surrounded with drama and chaos. And I'm right there with you girls. I'm sitting there and I was trying my hardest to meditate and just be there for the beloved. But and I'm sure I was to a certain extent. I have no doubts. But
It was not a peaceful,
loving.
loving.
Nobody's was, And I think I shared with y'all while my dad was dying. I crawled in the bed and I'm massaging him and I'm stroking him. And my mom, who is so angry and she's going through whatever she's going through with herself, she told me to get out of the bed and leave. Just go. That's done. And I knew, intuitively, I knew something's going on with him. I didn't know he was dying.
But you thought that's what he needed.
So I went down to the living room and laid on the bed or the couch, because I was visiting from Kansas City, and I just listened to his breath as he struggled, and then he stopped, and I knew he had passed. And then she was just hysterical. Now she was crying and sad. And I got up and I shut my feelings off and I just went to do the logistics. Call his brother, call my husband, tell him to, you know what I mean? Call the hospice nurse. And I shut myself off from all of that. And Mom's passing, I am putting the pedal to the metal, trying to get to Austin. And it's a journey in itself. All the encounters that I had, because the weather was so tornadic. And 20 minutes away from her facility that she's in, and she passes. And I can feel her presence, and I'm like, oh, you didn't, did you? And there was just this, my mother has passed this on to me, and I've changed it a lot, but there's this independence, this selfish independence, if you will.
Like she didn't allow you.
Or her, my siblings.
What you needed was the closure.
And they did too. They were there for her, but she wouldn't go, and she was agitated, and the staff told them, she's ready, but she's not going to go with y'all here. And so they left, and she passed.
And you didn't even get to be there.
They didn't either, even though they were.
But they were at least there.
No, they were at home.
Oh, they were.
The nursing home staff said,
go home.
Yeah.
But don't you think that those things are kind of sometimes meant to be? Like, maybe you were not meant to be there when
Okay, I'll accept that. But I still humanly yearn for what y'all experienced.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see what you mean.
Because regardless, I mean, like I would say my sister-in-law, she might have had some
Oh yeah, that's
issues
where I got real
with her
emotional.
mother and some healing
you were
that
talking
was
about
needed.
her.
But I see what you're saying, because she feels at peace now, because she felt like she had. Maybe you need to call Amy the death doula, because there was a lot of healing leading up to that Betsy was what she was doing. I talked to you about this too, where Amy advised her to go to the higher self, to the mom, and do the like. You don't have to be in the physical space.
So I don't Well, I don't know, I'd have to process this, but I feel that I don't hold my mom responsible for any of that. Okay, so the work's been done, and there's none of that lingering. It's just the sadness of what y'all experienced. And Marcella, when you were going through Greg's, you text some of us. I don't know if you recall it. And it was beautiful. In my mind, I'm going, oh my gosh, I need to be with her. And I text. And you were real clear, no, this is a moment I want to be. And I don't know what I text next, but it was a projection of mine. And she was just real calm. And she was like, Mary, I'm good.
I remember that. Now that you mention, I probably still have.
Because your reaction was like, I need to go. Like, I need to do
And
something.
when she said that to me, I was like, oh, I'm projecting.
What I needed.
I'm projecting onto her my experiences, assuming that she's going through, because I've never had the experiences, not with my in-laws, not.
So you're thinking she needs support, she needs somebody to be there, because I didn't have that.
That's exactly where I went. But she was real clear she was okay. So.
But again, everything on the side we're learning and moving forward, and chains are broken that need to be. So now, again, nobody's getting out of here alive. We're all gonna experience a loved one die. So now you know how to move forward and how you will want your passing, or your daughter, or you'll. I feel like you've maybe learned a lot from that experience.
Yeah, when it's my time
I don't want to
go,
wish that on you, but
right.
But that you see that doesn't have to be the way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And even,
I think that doing that, well, I don't know, I'm thinking that doing the work before, like really.
Like what she did.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's very, I with my dad, I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, what's going on with your dad?
So my dad passed away in 2017. But this is with my dad. And he had been sick for, I think, almost 3 years. But the last year was really tough because he lost his eyesight. And he was, I saw him for Christmas on 2016. And I was very sad to see him on a bed. Just, he could tell he was happy I was there, but it was like he couldn't move. It was so sad that I had heard about family constellations. And I called this woman, this girl, well, she was pretty young, but and actually, yeah, it was the very day that I got there, December 26th, 2016. And so I thought the whole family had to be there. So somehow I said, how am I getting my mom there? I don't know, but we're getting her. And I was like, I put all my Marcella
determined.
Yeah, the way they know me that I used to be. Mom, we're going there, period, right? So we are at her office on the 26th. And she said, this was meant to be just with you. And she actually knew my brother. That's how I learned about her. She didn't even know I need to meet with you. They need to go home or just wait for you out here. So I'll go home. I'll catch up. They went home. He sent my brother and my mom home. And we did the constellation with cushions because normally you do the constellations with people. She grabbed cushions. She started telling me things, telling me what to say to my dad.
And your dad had not passed yet?
No, my dad was sick at home.
He was sick at home.
Not passed. And so we finished. I felt really, it was a very, very, I don't want to get into the details, but it was a very, very interesting experience and very liberating, very peaceful.
Empowering.
Yes. So that was on December 26th. Yeah. And he said, in a month or less than a month, your dad is leaving. He will be gone. She just told me. She didn't know how sick my dad was, or not even exactly what condition he had or anything. My dad passes away in January, exactly a month after that day.
Wow.
And I was here already. I had already come back, and I was at work, and they called me and said, hey, your dad has passed away. And I was with co-workers. I was in a meeting, and I just like, a co-worker turned and said, wow, somebody called you. Because I said, it's Peru, I'm sorry, I need to take this call. And when they looked at my face, they said, somebody gave you some good news. You're smiling from ear to ear. And I was embarrassed because I thought, how am I going to tell them? And I said, yeah, I'll tell you later. I didn't share that in that moment because the news was your dad passed away. And then on the phone, it was my aunt calling me and said, oh my gosh, sorry, I need to get off the phone because the lights just went off. The power went off. Not even, I didn't make the connection in that moment either. And said, oh my gosh, yeah. And I was so lucky because I was kind of like, I wanted to be there, but I knew I could not just, fly back. And one of my cousins offers to record the cremation. I was able to just say a prayer for my dad. Well, when I say prayer, I mean it's just talking to his higher self in that moment. And just before they closed the cremation chamber, that's how close I got through.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, they must do that there. I don't think they do that.
And I said, okay, Dad, leave that body. It's time to go to the light. And boom, it happened.
Wow.
And then my cousin Marcel, I have to go. He couldn't handle it. He couldn't record anymore because he was emotional, right? Yeah. And it was like, oh my gosh, it was amazing.
Wow.
It was amazing. Yeah. Oh, lots of stories after that, but yeah. It was such an awesome, I don't know, I cannot describe how good I felt. I cannot.
Wow.
Yeah.
And like you said, you couldn't even, I don't know. I know, I can feel you. I know how you feel, but. Again,
I felt weird. I felt weird because it's my dad. I just love my dad, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, and I felt that peace. It was, yeah.
Like you might have felt a glimpse of what he's feeling. His, like that, like you said, when you open the door for you that love, unconditional joy, relief.
Yeah, it's, and then, well, I don't want to get into the details of that, but then I had a reading with Stephanie some time after that, and she described she was describing pretty much the moment of the cremation that I had experienced, and how my dad, he says, your dad all of a sudden, it's like an explosion, and he's opens to and I was like, I instantly remember that moment that my cousin was recording that.
And that's the vision that you...
and that's what she said, your dad is telling me about this amazing moment when he crossed over.
Wow.
It's
almost like you got to experience it.
Yeah.
So Mary, I know, I'm like,
so what I walk away from this is, so we're always talking about the extraordinary lives we live. Well, the reason why these ladies had such extraordinary experiences is they did the homework. And so what I can tell you is the next time, and it's inevitable, but the next time this is in my, my space, and somebody is, ill or going to die, I'm going to seek out help before.
Yeah, because we don't have to do it by ourselves.
Healing.
That's
right.
There's so many gifted souls, and
and it never entered my mind
to have a beautiful experience.
And I knew you when your dad had passed, and you shared all those stories. It just never dinged in my head to do that for myself. Right? Well, what I want to say to beloveds who have had experiences like I have with someone passing, clearly these two beloveds have given us extraordinary examples of how you can transform the ordinary experiences. And so I had a choice as I was listening to them, because I was quiet and I didn't feel like I had anything to contribute because I didn't experience what they experienced. Could I be petty and give in to jealousy and envy? Or could I see that these beloveds bring an alternate way of looking and practicing to the way I do life? So I know the next time, when it comes into my life where someone is transitioning, I will know to go and seek any kind of support, whether it be a death doula or a constellation. And that's what I'm taking away from it, from this conversation. I no longer feel sad that I didn't have that experience. I'm going to step up because I deserve that experience. And one of them will probably be the first person I call for guidance when this comes up. Right?
Or like Heather said, another thing would be nice, it would be good to do maybe a call for you is like to go connect with those beloveds, to use your word, those loved ones that passed away. Maybe that's why this is happening.
Yeah, that there's some messages for you.
Because you were really interested when she mentioned Amy.
Oh, yeah.
You could see in your eyes you want it.
Yeah.
So, and Stephanie's awesome too.
Oh, she's so awesome.
I hope one day we can interview Stephanie Barton. So, with that, we are coming to the end of this discussion. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And
see you next time.
See you next time.
We hope you have enjoyed today's dialogue. Please do not hesitate to let us know if you have questions, suggestions, or simply want to connect. You can reach us through our website at journeyintothevortex.com, Facebook, or Instagram. We hope you will join us again as we continue this transformative journey into the vortex.